I would imagine you're skeptical, are you?
Well, I think Bitcoin isn't widely understood, and I think it's not understood by its skeptics. I think it's also true that it's not understood by a lot of the people who are buying Bitcoin right now, who expect just a greater fool to come along and buy the thing. But I think that, when we look at financial bubbles and we look at financial instruments, we've got to actually appreciate the differences to see what we're talking about. And in Tulip Mania, I sometimes get assigned these things because I'm of Dutch descent, and somehow I'm supposed to know something about Tulip Mania in the 17th century.
Okay.
But the Tulip Mania in the 17th century wasn't just about bidding for tulips. It was about bidding for a particular type of bulb. And the ultimate height of that bubble was about a specific bulb that was expressing a white streak going up the side of it, or the expectation that this bulb would do that. And that was such a rarity, such a rare genetic deformity in this tulip bidding that it led to these insane prices, the peak of that bubble. I think understanding what Bitcoin is starts to get people excited to get the bubble going, but I think it's a useful thing for people to start to figure out if they're bidding on Bitcoin or if they're making statements criticizing Bitcoin when they don't really understand it.
Does that really matter when it's going to go mainstream? We have the CME now saying that they will launch these futures in December. I mean,
CME launching futures could actually help support the price, because what it would mean is that it would allow for the ability of short selling, and people who would be short these CME products could suddenly be short Bitcoin, which, contrary to popular opinion, doesn't drive down share prices, but what it provides is a floor when the people covering shorts and an equity or a security falls in value, shorts can come in and buy those things. So the CMA, if the CME can figure out how to do these contracts, it actually could provide certainly more stability for Bitcoin trading, but also covers for shorts.
How much do analyst calls actually sort of push the price higher when there's a, an outlandish call? And not just analysts. I mean, we saw the $10,000 figure named the other day, and suddenly we've passed 10,000.
Blow right
now
through
we're
10,000.
saying 50,000.
Sure, someone can throw a number out there. There are crazy numbers that will be thrown out. I think it's hard to understand what the intrinsic value of Bitcoin might be, and there is certainly intrinsic value. It is a potentially very useful expression of currency, and a way to move money that reduces a lot of the friction around the transfer of money. If you ever go to another country and try to get money out of a bank account in a different country and see the charges on that, if you look at all of the work that Wall Street does, a lot of the people who work on Wall Street are responsible for the movement of security, or the nominal notion of a security, from point A to point Z, with every stop in between taking a couple mils of a couple pennies. Those kinds of functions disappearing from a currency market are very attractive when you start to understand how currency actually functions and how money actually moves in our economy, and that's what makes Bitcoin so interesting.
Yeah, and especially if it starts acting like a safe haven as well, right?
Well, and that's when you get into your greater fool theory. That's when you get into Warren Buffett calculating that all the value of all the farmland in the U.S. is less than the value of all the known gold in the world. And isn't that crazy, because farmland's productive and gold isn't? It is also true of Bitcoin here. But obviously people are bidding on this with some notion that it has value, but perhaps an inability to calculate that intrinsic value.